true side of it, the cinema, that is where I think, like with any piece of art, a simple individual is motivated by some ineffable feeling to create an image.
So now we're going to talk about the big movies.
That's my aim.
Blockbuster, the let's just say the Hollywood films.
Right.
Are they all about the telos? Are they turning to Aristotle and praying to the Greek gods when they go to make their...
I don't think, well, maybe they're praying to somebody, but I don't know who it is. Let's say, for example, the new Star Wars movies in the last couple years. Terrible. And a crime against humanity, one could argue. My dad always told me that, if you have crap on paper, you're going to have crap on screen.
Now, when we do mass 10, because that's mass X, I say we're doing mass Elon Musk.
Honestly, besides going to confession and like the afterglow of that, genuinely directing is like the greatest feeling sensation you can have. Through technological and civilizational advancement, we've now reached what I would say is the pinnacle, the culmination of all art, which is now a full synthesis of reality, a full simulation of reality, which is a film. There are people here that are practicing the fullness of the truth, which I think is what traditional Catholicism is.
Welcome to the Singing, Dancing Catholic, where we talk about music, theater, dance, media, and performing arts from the Catholic perspective. I'm James Mark. The Singing, Dancing Catholic is the official podcast of Oratorio, St. Louis's only urban center for Catholic cultural and performing arts, located at St. Francis de Sales Oratory in Fox Park, St. Louis. The mission of Oratorio is to enrich with performing arts the shared effort to keep Fox Park a beautiful place to live. For information on cultural events, concerts, dances, music lessons, and how you can participate, visit oratoriostl.com. And now, about today's guest.
Today's guest is a writer, director, producer, storyboard artist, and co-founder of Kinomega Studios, a company of forerunners of cinematic authenticity and a poetic tradition going back to the days of Aristotle. We will unpack what that means in a moment, but first, Brad, good afternoon.
Sir. Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us today for the Singing, Dancing Catholic.
I'm honored.
All right. Well, welcome back to St. Louis.
Thank
welcome
you.
back to Rome of the West. We're glad to have you.
Yes.
Your home.
Yes.
Where you were born and raised.
But yeah, I went to TCU, Texas Christian University in Fort Worth. That's where I met my business partner, Daniel Ryan Hooks.
Were you studying film there?
Yeah, I did that. And then my minor ended up being in English. But me and Daniel, we worked together from the first set that I worked on, basically outside of class film organization called SFA. And from there, we were, fast friends and found that we had extremely similar philosophical outlooks on both life, theology, but also the art of film and like what we wanted to accomplish with that.
When I introduced you to the listeners, I rattled through your many hats rather quickly.
Yeah.
Can we take a moment to break just quickly each one? So writer.
Totally.
What is that?
Screenwriting is the key to everything. I've written 7 feature films so far.
7?
Yes. It's about 1,000 pages worth of published, copyrighted with the Writers Guild type of thing. So I use that as my benchmark. I'm trying to get to 10 before I hit 30. But yeah, screenwriting to me, of course, is the basic foundation of the film in general. My dad always told me that, if you have crap on paper, you're going to have crap on screen. And I find that to be usually my critique with most movies I watch is it's just not well written.
To direct?
Yes.
What's that like?
Amazing. I think it's the best feeling on earth, honestly. Besides going to confession and the afterglow of that, genuinely directing is the greatest feeling sensation you can have. Because, kind of like Tolkien,
yes,
I feel as though I'm participating in, as close as we can, to kind of God's creative role in reality. Yeah, that's kind of how I describe it. I just have an absolute joy in bringing out the truth in people. Incredible. And that's what I do with my actors.
Incredible. And producer.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, had to learned the ropes of that through a good producing class with shout out to Professor Chuck at TCU. But that was a really brilliant class about the business end of things, as well as just the organizational structure of how do you run a film production. And that's where I think I learned one of the key elements, which is the idea of the pitch. Creating like a sales pitch for the film, breaking down character structure, tone, but also budget. How do we sell this? All of that. I gave the pitch for one of my religious films to Richard Linklater, of all people.
Tell us who that is.
Director of, if anyone's familiar with, for example, School of Rock with Jack Black, the Before trilogy with Ethan Hawke.
You got to pitch to him?
Yes. So we were doing the media for a film festival, and after we were kind of done for the night, we had just kind of a Q&A at this banquet. People can mingle around, and I was like, I've got one goal in mind. And I beelined it to Richard Linklater, to Rick, as I'll call him. My buddy Rick.
Yeah, you can do it now. I can't.
Yeah, right. And so I had it on my phone like a PowerPoint, and I was like, "Hey, myself, Daniel here, we're young guys trying to literally do what you're doing. I've got a full feature pitch here. Would you look at it? I don't want to be encroaching right now." And he literally did, and we had a 15-minute conversation.
No way.
Yeah. And there's people around us being like, "Hey, Rick, can you talk to this guy?"
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on. Literally.
That's the ultimate legitimizer.
Yes, from that moment.
He gave you priority.
Yes, and he literally was like, this is solid. This is good.
That is fantastic.
And so from there, I was like,
when was
okay.
that?
That was 2021. And so all that is to say, I feel very good with having the foundation of both the creative side, but again, the producer, my teacher, he really, really gave us a good understanding of how to do it.
Yeah, and we will, in the course of the interview, I know we'll provide listeners with opportunities for production to become producers that will come up later, especially as
that's part of our plans. Part of our plans, yeah.
All right, so you're a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Most of the episodes we've done so far on the Singing Dancing Catholic have been painters, musicians, dramatists, the like. Because your medium is a little more complex.
Yeah.
In that it is a synthesis of mediums. Let's break down for people our terminology that we'll be using. I'll say movie. I'll say film.
Yeah.
Say video. Cinema, cinematography.
Yes.
Ad, commercial, video, media, YouTube short.
Definitely.
So first of all, Brad Ramsey.
Yeah.
What is cinema?
When a film reaches cinema at its height, that is, the highest level of what's possible in the medium.
It's
also
you could
reaching
say lots of people.
Yes.
It's got a culturally shared identity piece. People are gathering around that as something to behold.
Yes, but cinema would also mean the medium of, well, really light. Ultimately what the person in the theater is seeing is the image projected. So cinema is that.
I've heard similar things said by straight up photographers.
Right.
That they play with light.
Yes.
That's
the medium. And okay, to distinguish though, cinema is light plus time. Because now you can manipulate time down to the picosecond, femtosecond, down up into, you can show entire eons in a second.
Fantastic. What's a video?
A video, I would say that is maybe just not anything that's not a feature film. Mm-hmm. So we're going what would be under an hour, roughly. Anything like that.
Yeah,
but even
myself,
still,
when I use that word, I tend to be saying, "Hey, I saw this video the other day." It's
now we're thinking YouTube. YouTube. So we're thinking online, media. Probably.
Yeah.
More than I would say that actually is what it is. It's it's not on television. It's an internet video.
On your phone.
Yes.
It's interesting because I'm just old enough to, the word video originally for me meant VHS, like a tape you put in your VCR.
Hey, I grew up watching those.
So video, I think, is actually, as a word whose meaning is slightly skewed a bit.
Yes,
now that we're using it to refer to YouTube shorts, social media clips, it's no longer sit down, get out the popcorn. That you wouldn't use that to describe a video.
Okay, I'll make that. Well, video, why do we say movie? It's moving.
Right.
Because they called them talkies until it became ubiquitous. So now that's why. It's because it's the motion. Where I just love really, if we want to get niche, we can go, we're going to go down to the talkies, pay a dime for a talkie. Yeah. I think that's ridiculous.
Earlier in the intro, I said that your company is a company of, quote, from your website, forerunners of cinematic authenticity and a poetic tradition going back to the days of Aristotle.
Absolutely.
Now, connect movies to Aristotle for us?
I would say one, philosophically, we talked about the telos, like the ends of something.
What is the telos?
The telos
How's
is...
that spelled? Is it TH?
I think it's TEILOS.
Okay. It's a Greek word.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. As opposed to, something's like, something's ontology, what it is, but something's telos, what is it for, is kind of, I guess, how I'd say, or like, what are its ends?
What are its ends?
Yeah.
All right.
And so it was also through Aristotle that I read the Poetics. And if people are unfamiliar, that was his basically analysis of drama at the time. Mm-hmm. And in a way, I would say that at least in Western tradition, as to differentiate from something like kabuki theater in Japan or something, which I'm not even sure of how long that goes back.
Yeah.
But for us, I would say in the Western tradition, it begins and in the previous episode about theater, the gentleman whose name escapes me, he mentioned...
We did 2 episodes about theater.
The most recent
Owen
one.
Brown and Nicholas Rao.
With Nicholas. He mentioned the Agora, which is the public forum, the town.
Here, Brad Ramsey is referring to an episode of The Singing Dancing Catholic recorded January 28, 2026. The episode was titled The Theater and the Town and featured St. Louis dramatist and theater director Nicholas Rao, whose doctoral dissertation is on Aristotle's conception of the town. The following is an excerpt from that episode.
What was your motivation to start the club? You've identified a couple of these like social, fraternal things. Was there anything more to it?
This is a complicated question because it partly has to do with my love of theater, and I was thinking about this earlier today. Partly my love of theater and partly my dissertation project. I'm doing a degree at St. Louis University. And my dissertation is about the town. And really, the shortest answer I can give is that I see...
The town per se,
the
St.
town
Louis.
as an institution.
The town as an institution.
The town broadly, which is a term that Aristotle comes out of Aristotle.
The amphitheater, that's where it begins.
So the word poetics, the title of that book, we might, in modern ears, retroactively think that means we're talking about poetry per se.
Correct.
But you're saying this is more holistic to include performative art.
Yes, and drama specifically, the act of a story, a plot. And so he was basically analyzing what I would say were the mechanics of drama, looking at tragedy, and on the opposite side, comedy or farce. And so through that, I understood, as well as Daniel did reading it, that we're doing the same thing still, but through technological and civilizational advancement, we've now reached what I would say is the pinnacle, the culmination of all art, which is now a full synthesis of reality, a full simulation of reality, which is a film.
So cinema is not a technological gimmick that hijacked culture. It is a part of the continuum that starts with the Greeks.
I think at its deepest level, yes. And I would even say, someone like Caravaggio, for example, who I would argue created cinematic lighting. It was essentially stage lighting, but like
much of the cinematography of The Passion of the Christ.
Absolutely.
By Mel Gibson. Supposedly, I don't know how accurate this is, I've heard this, that he looked to Caravaggio's imagery to inspire how he was going to light.
I could totally see that. Because his the one that always strikes me specifically is the Taking of Christ. You can literally almost see it with a slow motion type of movement. You can feel every movement. You can see the light reflecting off of specific objects. Like, it's so brilliant. So, but what is that? That's the visual side of the film. But without the drama, where's the plot? What are we watching?
Yes.
We have the space, but we don't have the time. There's nothing happening.
Yes. So to sum up the first little bit of our interview here, cinema is the paramount of the medium.
Correct.
Films, videos, clips, these are things that are a little more recently developed.
And subcategories.
And subcategories, a little more recently developed, not quite at the same lofty level of presentation as the cinema, but that when it comes to your company, which is called Kinemega Studios, a Greek word, right? Or the combination of 2 Greek words.
Yes.
Is predicated on Aristotelian ideas, specifically the telos.
Correct.
The thing defined by its end, its terminus.
Its meaning.
Its meaning.
Yes, because the best films I've ever seen, the best art I've ever seen, any medium, it moves me to tears as though it's like I'm living it or something. And like I would seek to impart that level of impact on people that other filmmakers and artists for thousands of years have done to me.
Sure. So now that we've established here that film is an artistic medium, not merely a commercial commodity,
Yes.
let's unpack how it might impact souls, because these things you're describing, the Greeks, they weren't just concerned with the ability to control or manipulate the market through aesthetics and through gimmicks. They firmly believed, and it comes through even in their philosophy about music. Pythagoras in particular talks about the moral implications of music, the sounds you're listening
discord.
to. Yeah, exactly. So given that's the case, it sounds like we're getting into this domain about film as a medium with impact on souls, not just emotions and sensations, but on a deeper level. So
it becomes intellectual.
when we go to KinomegoStudios.com, which everyone is listening, you're encouraged to do.
Yes, please.
We'll see samples of your work, and these include a variety of categories of film. I just pull a couple of out if you want to expound on each of these. So I see one on there that we have apparently used as a embedded web banner video for a website, for a men's haberdashery company.
Yes.
Its purpose is to, when the viewer, in this case the shopper, goes to the website and they take a look at a product up close, or they hover over it, I'm assuming there's some trigger that causes it. The video is prompted to play, and it is a video of a man in a suit. The company, of course, is
Uncommon Man.
The Uncommon Man.
That's right, because they are specifically this hyper-tailored, bespoke, handcrafted to specifically each wearer. So it imparts the care put into all of the fabrics, and also the vibe of wearing it, though. The type of cool person that would be in the styles that they're doing, because personal style is important. And that's kind of the
suaveness of the guy.
Yes.
But also I appreciated seeing the up close shot. In this case, they immediately seemed so beneficial to the viewer, because by doing that, you're giving them not just the holistic shot of the man, but the textile, the tactile encounter with the fabric, with the weave of both the jacket and the shirt and the tie, so that the person's not just passively watching this. They're getting a sense of what it would feel like, even if only by way of their computer screen, because it's for the website.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this case, walk that back to the telos.
Right. So anything on any level is about, I'll use the colloquial vibe, right? Everything has a proper vibe, but what is that? It's a proper feeling, and thus, but still, that's the end. Like, your conclusion is the reaction to that, right? And so for them, it was, as you said, the emphasis was really about the quality of the materials, all of that, and they wanted to impart that visually. So from there, I just kind of walked it back, and because I think, because the closer you get to truth, and truth itself is Christ, the Logos, which is, perfect logic, order, whatever what have you. I think it became easy to figure these things out for me. And I know that maybe sounds weird or something, but it really was kind of like an afterthought. It's kind of like, oh, well, of course. Like, if that's what we want to show, then it just lends itself to logically follow.
Yes, if the shopper was in the store, which, by the way, where is Uncommon Man?
Oh, yeah.
Do they have retail fronts?
Yes, they have one a brick and mortar place that was near the SMU campus in Dallas. I think they either had renovations or they had to move, but still check out their website. I love those guys.
Well, I bring it up to say, if I was there, if I was the shopper, and I had the luxury and the privilege of being able to go to Texas to go into their store, what would I do? I wouldn't just stand in from it. I would go up to the fabrics. I would pick it up. I would look closely at it. I would feel it with my hand. I would try it on. I would look in the mirror.
Yeah, their hand measuring you.
Your video, by way of analog in a way, captures all those key things about the in-person experience and makes it available to somebody at great distance.
Exactly.
It sounds like, in this case, the end, or the telos, was not just, we're looking to make money here. We're trying to sell suits. But we are trying to sell suits. We are trying to persuade. You could have made a video where the guy's just walking down the street and it says the prices and it says the address and how to get it. But you chose to make it tactile.
Absolutely.
You chose to make it experiential. An actual aura is absorbed. That just as the person's looking on the website, they're getting way more than just the information about the sale. They're this close to feeling the suit.
It's the feel. It's feel.
Another, by contrast, a different subject matter, but another video you made a commercial for Atico
Yes.
Bar. Now, where
Yes.
is Atico located, and what kind of food is that again?
So Atico is that is a Spanish tapas place.
Tapas, okay.
Yes, and it's in the stockyards of Fort Worth. You know, that's a cobblestone like 1800s place where they did the cattle drives. But it's a really nice restaurant, and they focus on, as you know, you're gonna show, like they focus on the experience of having the open kitchen, super fresh ingredients, many, you know, like imported from the Mediterranean region. They wanted that specific flair of the authenticity of the food.
If anybody listening right now is a restaurant owner, you need to contact Brad Ramsey.
Thank you, bro.
And Kinemago Studios, and hire them to make your restaurant commercial, because I watched that. And much like the Uncommon Man promo, where I feel like I could feel the weave of the fabric. The restaurant video, you made me feel not only like I was in the restaurant, but I could almost predict and sensed emotionally the social scene that would have filled it. The kind of people who are going to go there. I could tell they were going to be fun people. I could tell they were going to be people who are enjoyable to talk to hang out with, a place to hang out for that reason.
Yes, exactly.
But also, I just asked right now, what kind of food is it?
Right.
But it's like, no, I could tell by the way it was filmed, like this has got to be something either Latin or Caribbean or something. And your film did that. So
thank you.
Again, far more than just informative, these quote unquote ads, which they are ads functionally.
Of course.
That's the telos, that's the purpose.
Right.
But you are using every facet available to you of the medium of filmmaking to optimize a holistic experience.
Absolutely.
Not just loudspeaker, the key points, the who, what, where, why, when.
Yeah. Well, and it shows too for the customer. It shows that, I mean, there's an ethos there to that, where even the clients themselves, it shows they're putting in the care, that they're proud enough to like, no, we're making a good production to show high quality products. So I think it works in I would guess sort of just a positive like feedback loop. It's all about the most credibility one can show, the highest quality. Really it, to vouch for the product, at least in a if we're talking on the advertising side.
So again, we're currently talking, for our listeners, we're talking about Kinemago Studios.
Yes.
I'll say that again slowly because it is Greek. Let's go ahead and so they have a visual of how it's even looks.
Yes, Kino Mega.
Kino Mega.
Yes.
And Kino is?
So Kino is the German meaning of film.
And it also has a Greek meaning?
Kinetic.
And then Mega.
Mega is just the best, big. And then, but there's also Omega.
Sure. Alpha and Omega.
Because we view, and this is where maybe we get a little magnanimous, but we view ourselves literally as sort of the ends of cinema. Like we view ourselves as like, and kind of connecting it back to the Aristotelian analysis of drama. Like we view ourselves as the end result of this entire 3,000 year tradition of reaching art in its newest form.
So if you were to go, listeners, to KinoMegaStudios.com, you would see these videos that we've been talking about, the Uncommon Man promo, the Atico Bar promo, and it seems like at least a few dozen others.
Yes, yeah.
But there's one other on there that would catch, in particular, I think, the attention of our listeners on the Singing, Dancing Catholic. You made a video, a film, something, of the oratory of Saints Gregory and Augustine.
Yes.
How would you categorize that video?
This one is much more sort of forthwith, where it's just like, look, it is just Catholic culture that must and should exist. We do it was like, okay, we're processing through this neighborhood around the church. Okay, well, why not extend the neighborhood that's seeing this to be anyone that can go online, which is around the world. I just wanted it to be like almost like a beacon. Like I wanted it to be like, no, there are people here that like are practicing the fullness of the truth, which I think is what traditional Catholicism is.
Yeah. So it looks to the eyes at first like quote
commercial
advertisement.
And it is that at some base level.
Right. But when you use the word beacon, I think that's actually more to the heart of what it is. It is alerting people to something.
I wanted us to show we're here.
Yeah.
And same with I don't know if you've posted it yet, but same with Oratorio. That's the end of the video we're making together.
We at Oratorio, we saw Brad's videos, especially the one that was done for Gregory and Augustine, but also you actively filming on the scene at the Festival of St. Louis.
And that video forthcoming pretty soon.
And so we approached Brad to do the filming of the activity that we had during our Christ the King Music Festival last fall. We're here now talking. This interview is happening here in February of 2026.
Yes.
So that was last October 2025, the centennial of the Feast of Christ the King. It was
Amen.
promulgated in 1925. So 2025 was the 100th year anniversary. We wanted to go big for that. And so we hired Brad to, in addition to doing a bunch of stuff, we had it all filmed. And so if you go to oratoriostl.com, some of you may be there right now because this podcast is posted there, lives there. But if you're not, go to oratoriostl.com, the homepage. Everything you see happening is Brad's work. That is at St. Francis de Sales Oratory in Fox Park, St. Louis. The dancing that you see, the live musicians playing, the candlelight, all that is taken on site here where we're doing this interview at St. Francis de Sales Oratory. So, yeah, beacons, not ads.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
In
Because
Lord
that's
of
how
the
we
Rings,
used.
like
That's
the
how
fires.
we ended up using that video you made. You and I talked. We went around about what the purpose would be, and I was kind of like, well, we could use it for many things. It's evergreen, so we could kind of use it for many things. In the end, I'm personally convinced it is perhaps best, a bit akin to how the Uncommon Man video.
I agree.
This thing that lives and it floats in maybe the back, it's like quote unquote the back of as you examine our website.
Yes.
And it very quickly and effectively says who and what we are. We are Catholic Cultural Performing Arts in an urban center, the only urban center for Catholic Cultural Performing Arts. You captured all that by getting some of the shots of Fox Park, the brick, the mortar, the urban setting, the St. Louis row houses.
Got some drone. Yeah, flew the drone up
there. The
there.
drone shots, yeah. But then also the way you cut that directly to the interior of the church, the beauty of its architecture, and then from there to the graceful movement of the well-rehearsed dancers.
Yes.
In that ball intercut with live instruments being played, none of which was rehearsed, none of which was staged.
Nothing.
It was totally candid.
Yeah, I was the one floating around. Everybody else was all in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so you were able to get what we were, much like you did for Uncommon Man.
Yeah.
You made what we are tactile.
Yeah.
So that is definitely, it's a beacon, it's an evergreen, it's a video, but I think it counts as cinema, even if it didn't come to a theater.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, it's in the medium. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about mediums, we talk about artistic mediums.
Yeah.
Like it's like music. If you were to ask me, I would say, there's these different roles that we have. You have the conductor, you have the performer. Then within performers, you have the different instruments, the violins, the violas. And if we talk about visual arts, there's the different steps. The stretching of the canvas, the selecting of the oils, the brushes that are chosen for any given thing. So there's these different technical aspects. Film breaks down, I'm just going to list what, as a layman, I think it breaks down to, and tell me what I've missed, and tell me what maybe doesn't belong there.
Okay.
Okay, so when you say to me film, I think crew.
Yeah.
I think script.
Yeah.
Camera.
Yeah.
Light. Sound. But by necessity, microphones. Color. Subject matter. Editing and acting.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Each one can, I would say, be broken down into which stage of the production we're at, because you have pre-production, principal photography, and then post-production. So pre-production is, that's where I start also as the writer. That's kind of literally the only solitary part, actually, is just the writer, unless the writer and director are two different people. Then you start getting some communication. I want to be both, what would be called the auteur theory, where it's sort of the work in its ends is the work of a sole author.
Right.
Ultimately.
That word auteur, that's a French variation of the word author?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. And we were taught about, that's like one way a movie could be made. I'm just using that because that's how I've been orienting myself and Daniel's company.
Yeah.
So that's pre-production, and then you start bringing in, your production heads. So you have, of course, production designer. You have your first assistant director, who's kind of running the day-by-day schedule. They're breaking down sort of in what order we want to shoot everything, what location. So they're doing everything like that with the production coordinator, who's then taking that and sort of executing. And then I would have the first assistant director. They're like next to the director, obviously, kind of keeping them on to the schedule, getting everything organized, sort of a second brain. But then, you need all the artists actually on set once we get there. But again, I guess another part of pre-production too is, of course, we got to hire our actors, and I'm heavy on rehearsals. because I think leaving improvisation, like that needs to be left for on set. And it's like, well, we need to have the script down to a science.
Right.
To have the safety to play around.
Sure, right.
And I'm sure you know that with music. Like we got to know it exact till somebody improvs a note or something. Like, no.
Sure.
So then, of course, I would say you also need all the production people, to set designers, and that, those people can be laymen when it comes to the arts, but we need
role?
Like just simple craftsmen, people building the sets, people doing the electric work, all running all the wiring, keeping everything powered. Like, it takes people that would not necessarily consider themselves artistic, but it's a bringing together of so many practical skills.
It seems to me that the social scene of these people, between live stage plays and filmmaking, tend to be different or distinct populations.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? What about what's going on in the filmmaking process makes that a different niche of person? I think to myself of like theater people. When I hear that word or use that word, I'm thinking of like the community theater people, and they were all campy,
a little flamboyant, you could say.
And, but filmmakers, I've noticed, tend to be tech heads almost, compared to a very much invested in their own personal continued education in technology.
Yeah, it's necessity, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, well, for me, it's, okay, I'll go to a really good indie filmmaker, Robert Rodriguez, who works with Quentin Tarantino a lot. But he talks about how his whole thing was he had to be like a one-man like powerhouse. Like, if you're a director, right, and you've got a good eye and like you've got a good like story thing, okay, that's good. But if you know how to make the movie at every step, well, now you don't need anyone else. You can make your own movie. At the end of the day, if I get a budget of 10 million or something, like, or even just $1 million or something, I can actually sit and have people properly delegated. And I consider it kind of like I would call it like an army. It's like my army. And I think the German expressionist director, Karl Theodor Dreyer, he said a quote of something like on the set, he feels like a dictator. Like, it's his like grand like army that he's like, they're going into battle. And that's how I kind of see it. Like, but that with the military, like, you need the absolute trust that when I give you like the order, you can execute it perfectly. You know what I'm thinking.
So respect.
You
still need respect.
And skill, though.
Yes.
But that, like, the respect that comes from knowing that you
have the skill.
You have the skill, and we sync. Like, you get what I'm saying. You get the style.
A skill-based respect.
Yes.
That then qualifies the director to be like a general.
Yes. Exactly.
So in that case, not so much a dictator, but like a general.
Right. Yeah. More general.
Like, I think like a general who's earned the respect of his men. So you hear this sentiment about like World War II and everything. They would follow him into the gates of hell.
Yes.
That's more what you have to achieve. It sounds like you're saying
100%.
As a director.
100%.
We've talked about these roles. We've just identified these distinct roles: director, producer, writer, actor. How about a role we haven't talked about yet, and that sometimes gets forgotten? The viewer.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. So
huge.
When we digest or receive opera, there's a couple ways to do it. We can go to the Met, we can go to a theater, and we can see Wagner performed live with orchestra. Or we can also today sit on our couch, pull out a phone, put on over-ear headphones, put on footy pajamas, pour a glass of wine, and listen to it in total comfortable seclusion.
Yeah, isolation.
Film, movies, these are things that it's gone through different stages of how it's received. And back in the day, when it was always the theater system, the exhibitionist sort of approach, where to see a movie meant getting in the car, going. It was an event. And it was an event that was adorned with all this extra accoutrement, like popcorn and candy. You'd probably go as a group, not just by yourself. So it's like it's a social event as well.
We can't hear spoilers. Like, you gotta,
Right. Yeah. And now we've got the streaming option, which is to say, it's brought home to us. It's
correct.
It's possible for us to receive film in total isolation in our socks. The following is another clip from the January 28th interview with Nicholas Rao.
Entertainment, like most things in our society, has become domesticated. If you think of groceries being brought to your door, theater has been brought to our door, music has been brought to our door. Most people who want to be entertained are going to be entertained through very passive, home-brought media.
What, in Brad RAMSEY's opinion, is the best way to experience a film? And I realize it depends on what kind of a film we're talking.
Exactly.
Let's start with the feature film, because that's what I think most of our listeners, myself included, I mean, in the layman here, we think about the word movie. We think about a franchise. We think about The Godfather. We think about Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to watch a feature?
Like that? Okay, yeah, you got to be in a theater. You got to be in a theater. Unless you have a home theater. Like as close, and that's what I've been working towards in my own home, is like getting as close as I can to that.
Home theater.
But you have to go, and I'm going to say shout out to the Alamo Draft House. That's where you got to go, because they will kick people out if you pull out your phone or you talk. The Alamo Draft House and the Foundry. But that is the key to my point, is because you need silence and you need the darkness. Like, you can't have any distractions, and you can't be talking like, at the normal level we're talking now.
Sure. So it's not like vaudeville theater where the whole idea is to socialize while it's going on.
Where it's a raucous, like, no. This is, you need silence, you need concentration. But at the same time, there is a communal, like, emotion, like people reacting together. Like, that's a great experience.
Interesting.
Nevertheless.
Interesting.
Now because I have just a weird personality and my, like, extreme sensitivity to,
most
like,
of our listeners are the same.
Yeah, how, like, that takes me out of it if I hear anything, and I know you're probably the same way. I prefer it at my house, but that's because I have, like, an 80-inch screen. I have a surround sound, like, subwoofer speaker. Any explosion's gonna rattle the floor. Like, I can close the blinds. That to me is almost a theater. And then my friends and I can have something, like, in the oven, and have some beers or something. Like, we don't have to worry about, like, getting up, like, walking through the aisle. Like, you can have more a personalized experience. But I like to invite people over, and I've got, like, a circle of, like, couches, because I want it to still be communal.
Yeah.
But it's like my own theater.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeking.
So the movies that are getting made today. So now we're going to talk about the big movies.
That's my aim.
Blockbuster, the let's just say the Hollywood films.
Right.
Are they all about the telos? Are they turning to Aristotle and praying to the Greek gods when they go to make their...
I don't think, well, maybe they're praying to somebody, but I don't know who it is. But
what's the difference in the movies that we see making so much money, or not, that people flocking to in the theaters, and what you've described constitutes truly artistically based film? What's guiding their science?
It's the ends of filling the most seats. It's the most...
It's butts and seats.
Right, because therefore, if your end is profit, then it has to aim for numbers, and therefore you have to aim for lowest common denominator. I think it removes it from the point of art at all. Like, it's a person's expression of something, a truth primarily, or in its perfect end. So it becomes like it's not even, people say it's like made by committee, or it's like, it's slop. It's just like just a mixed up assortment of junk. Like, it's not personable. It has no ends. It has no direction. It has no meaning.
Or its end is simply profit.
Or the end is like, exactly.
But how does that affect what you've just said could be said about any number of industries today.
Exactly.
How does it affect the actual art of it? How does it affect the final product? When we go to see that movie, we might actually be entertained still.
True.
There's still something speaking to us, even if the end for its production is finance.
Yeah.
What about its making is affected by that end?
Okay, I think, that's where you get into why they become these, like, corporate products. Even there are, let's say, for example, the new Star Wars movies in the last couple of years. Terrible. Okay. And a crime against humanity, one could argue. A crime against art, certainly. But that's not to say that there aren't really, really good artists working on them. Because I would still argue those movies have amazing cinematography work by a guy named Dan Mindel.
Mindel?
Yeah, name came to my mind. He's really good. But also all the people, making the 3D prosthetics for the actors to be different aliens, and, the CGI is really good. So those are people making the programs.
So all the mechanics and the roles that we talked about earlier, these people, the directors, the producers, the writers, and even what you said about the camera, the light, the sound, tactile, it's all still being dispatched. It's all still employed.
But the soul, gone.
So where in the process is the soul robbed? If all that stuff's still at work.
It's the writing.
The writing?
Yeah. It's concept. Totally.
And where in the concept?
Well, it's just the telos, the ends. Why are we telling this? What does it mean? I'll take Star Wars. Like, what the first 6 are George Lucas's story. It's about. That's a whole podcast of what Star Wars is about. But clearly,
that'll be part 3 of this.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be
episode 3.
The Revenge of the Sith of this.
Yeah, seriously. But like, they didn't even.
We have people who listen here who go to the Latin Mass, and the Gregorian chant masses are numbered by Roman numerals.
Yeah.
We have Mass 1, Mass 2, Mass 3, Roman numerals. And I always, as the music director here at DeSales, I'll get asked by the sacristan and the general manager, which Mass are we singing today? And I've developed a whole secret code for all of them based on the Star Wars movie. So it's like, we're doing Mass Attack of the Clones today. We're doing Mass Revenge of the Sith. Now, when we do Mass 10... because that's Mass X, I say we're doing Mass Elon Musk.
Okay.
But is there a 10th Star Wars?
Musk?
There wasn't a 10th Rocky, so...
No, okay, I mean, the 10th Star Wars is like technically... It's all like the books. You'd have to bring in some of the old books.
Is that called the expanded universe?
Yeah, that's where they'd have to get that from. But like even then, so the new movies, like they did not care clearly about what was the meaning of George's work. And same with Lord of the Rings. Like,
you think it was more like, how can we milk this
Exactly.
franchise
It becomes an IP. It becomes, as you said, the franchise. Or Lord of the Rings.
So
Amazon did the same thing.
Here's a question. Their franchises, let's say we've identified, okay, it's in the concept. They're just trying to make money. But I feel like since Gen X onward, that's inclusive of all 3 of these, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, onward, at mixers and cocktail parties, as they're floating the room, as they're talking, both people they know and people they don't know, and you're talking to somebody from one of these generations, you may connect intellectually, probably first on things like politics, sports teams, and even religion. Like around here, if we threw a party on the Oratory campus, everybody would, let's say it was homogenous, it was a lot of traditional Catholics.
Yeah.
They'd talk a lot about the Mass, and so they would connect on that.
Yes.
Whether or not they're actually enjoying themselves is a different question, though. They're just connecting because they know that this is a code that they can communicate to each other to keep a conversation going.
Oh, that's such a good point.
When we connect deeper, though, and I think this is true increasingly of each of the generations since Gen X, when we really connect, and I mean, let's say a little more emotionally, we get a visceral response to the connection that's happening.
Yes.
It doesn't really happen until the discovery of a shared love of that one episode of Seinfeld, The Office, Downton Abbey, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. Even just before we did this, I was talking to a coworker, and they made a reference to a show in order to make a point they were making in a broader, more social sense.
Yes.
They were trying to make a point about something cultural, and they said, well, have you seen The Office? And I was like, yeah, I've seen The Office.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how we established what we were talking about.
Crazy. Yeah.
So these products, almost all of them franchises, are providing social currency and a binding agent for the culture today, such that people are connecting over them. It provides an identity piece. When we, as bad as let's say these Star Wars movies are, there are still people who were going to the movies dressed as the characters.
Of course.
And I know there's people out there that are naming their kids after the characters.
Yeah.
I saw on Wikipedia that Jediism is an official religion, I think, in the state of Texas.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
Let's say they're franchises. Let's say it's all about the money. Nevertheless, look how much culture has been shaped by it.
Yes.
The question there is it just shrewd commercialism that has elevated film to the dignity of a shared cultural experience? Or is there something inherent in the medium, even that used by the franchisers?
Yeah.
That is the art of filmmaking that not only puts butts in seats, but resonates emotions, stimulates imagination, and even competes with worship to the zeal of souls.
Yes. Well, okay. 2 things. I think, of course, that connects back to the beginning, where this is at the foundation of Western civilization, is drama or storytelling. I would say it's literally in every civilization is some kind of dance or like people with masks doing something.
That's why it's so important for us to get dancing happening here at Oratorio, by the way.
Indeed.
And why we wanted you to film it. But
indeed. No, absolutely. Literally.
It's a civilizational piece, not just an idiom.
Yes. We as human beings have to do these communal things. I mean, why I don't think that is a question is really, it's a higher order question that's not for us. But I think it's just simply necessary for life. Like for me, why I feel so impacted when I see the greatest level of films is I realize like I'm not alone in my thoughts. Like someone has felt something, expressed something that I have felt or I'm dealing with right now. There's this level of like, we can't be alone. I mean, God said man can't be alone. He's even said it's not good for man to be alone. So it's like, clearly we're not meant to fully be isolated, like in a weird ascetic existence.
Historically, it looks like film progressed from you had to go to the theater.
Right.
Now more and more you have that plus the ability
Yeah,
to
the
not
home technology has gotten better
Yeah.
for projection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's an
Say-
inherently technological medium.
It's technological medium that when we're talking now about the impact on souls,
Yeah.
or even the ability to compete with religion for it. This is something that harkens back to the composer, the musical composer of the 19th century, Richard Wagner. So Wagner was more than just an opera composer. He influenced the architecture of the opera houses, and the content was always go big or go home. It was these big, usually Nordic myths.
Yeah, these cultural expressions.
Huge cultural expressions, and that had enormous impact on Europe. He's more or less attributed to, if not himself claiming to have invented this concept of an all-encompassing art form, which earlier you mentioned that's essentially what film is now, a synthesis of the mediums. Gesamtkunstwerk, that's all one word. Gesamtkunstwerk, that means all-encompassing art form. And it's more or less just the synthesis of all the mediums, the architecture, the visual, the music, even language. Because it's opera, it's textual. It's not just melodies that you're hearing. You're hearing stories. You mentioned stories.
Right.
Also, its scales and proportions are glacial. They're absolutely massive. They're cosmic in nature.
Yes.
Well, what does this sound like? Sounds like a movie, of course.
Yeah.
Sounds like an epic, George Lucas or Spielberg.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
It also sounds like the Mass according to the Roman Missal of 1962 when the music is present.
Yes.
The difference being what?
The reality of it.
The truth.
Yeah.
We have, with opera, with Wagner's opera, we have the depiction of fantasy.
Yeah.
Enthralling, tactile, engaging, but ultimately the story of one's imagination. In the Mass, all the same mediums, architecture, visual, music, language, and yet what's being, quote, depicted is the truth with an uppercase T.
Yes. There is,
And I don't mean that just by,
participatory
I don't mean
nature.
closest that we have to the Mass in terms of its sacramental content. I mean in its ability to impact souls.
Well, right.
What I said earlier
Well, it's
about
the most imminent. Yes, I'm sorry.
The cocktail mixers.
Yes.
When somebody says, oh, you're a Patriots fan too. Did you watch the Super Bowl the other day? Now we're speaking code.
Yeah.
We're not really connecting. We're speaking socially acceptable code. But if once I say the Dwight Schrute reference from The Office and the other person goes, oh, he's an Office fan. Cool. We can be friends. Now after this party, we might actually talk.
Right.
We might hang
right,
out. We
right.
just connected. That is, the Patriots did not cause us to do that. The most recent headline in political news did not cause us to do that. It was the discovery of this piece of film that caused us to decide we might have something deeper in connection because it probably spoke to our emotions. That's what I mean by close to religion.
Of course.
Film has, in the 20th century, become the most effective way to reach people at their heart.
Yeah, the communication. And the fact that it's a story. As we were saying, like Tolkien talking about how the creation of art at all, but especially with something more dramatic where you're controlling a story and more of a world, is as close as you can get to the creative power of God at all.
So very close to the creative power of God, once used for evil, is apocalyptic. Because once established to be the most effective, portable, accessible, available means of being impacted to your core,
Right.
Once that's no longer virtuous.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, we see everyone now, they just believe what the TV people say because they're talking out of the glowing box type of thing. And it's like, yeah, that means nothing. So what? But it's the most alluring.
Right. So what kind of, this sounds to me like an opportunity. We could go on and on about, but I feel like enough podcasters have already talked about the effect of the corrupt elements of Hollywood films.
Yeah.
We don't need to go, or even pornography.
Of course.
That's already been discussed.
Inherently
So
bad.
What is the opportunity here if it is so impactful? It sounds like, you're a Catholic filmmaker.
Yeah.
My guess is we need more people like Brad RAMSEY.
Yeah, maybe.
But if we go back to those roles, writers, directors, storyboard artists, cameramen, I'm thinking we need more producers.
Yes. Yes.
Producers like
yes.
Brad Ramsey. You spoke about the production element, and you said you appreciated that you got it to give you that perspective.
Yeah, right.
That you're more on the art side, but you got the production side. Let's talk about producers.
Yeah.
Okay, let's revisit it. What exactly is the role of the producer? And so people don't conflate director with producer.
Yes. So the director is actually on the ground, on the set. They are in charge of the artistic side of the film, all of the artistic choices. Now, that's not to say the producer can't be. I think that's more of just kind of depends on the person. But, you can go much more on just the financial side, being the investor into the project. But again, you can also go to the side that they're the producers that are still almost like the representatives of the people financing, in a typical sense, a studio rather than individual investors. But those people are almost the sort of liaison between the money and the actual crew members on the ground that are doing the filming,
So it sounds like any green light to proceed with production starts with that relationship.
Certainly.
And that, because you said it's also someone in the middle. They may not be the money, they're just the connection or the liaison.
Often, yeah.
They could also be in that intercessory role, pitches.
Right.
Persuading the funder.
Exactly.
That the heart and soul of the art that's being proposed is worth their investment.
Precisely.
Is that something, where do these people come from? Who are they today?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure it out because that's been my whole
it sounds
quest.
Like a big need.
Yes.
That needs filled. Like there's
on every level, every artistic level in
we need
terms
more
of Catholic context.
Catholic producers.
Yes. Yeah. On both your side, music, unlike a movie, putting on cultural events, single instantiations, let's say, celebrations. But we also need, as we talked about before, how the church kind of had the run of the game of aesthetics, like the entire aesthetic design.
And here you talk about the medieval, the Renaissance,
even
Baroque.
Before that, the whole development of Western culture, from aesthetic to theological, philosophical, literally what have you, is because of the Catholic Church. I think that needs to return. And I think you made a good point in the pre-show about the sort of modern understanding or belief in this kind of secularization of things, where the church and state is separate. We don't, the arts and the financing and business people
don't talk to
are
each
not
other.
Connected in any way.
Yeah,
but
the most they tend to connect over is a grant application.
Yes.
So it's a totally sterile, inhuman relationship.
Yes, but I mean, that's been my goal, and maybe, I don't think so. My hunch is no, but maybe I've made this type of person up and they don't exist. But I know that there have to be people out there, I mean, just for economic circumstances, they'd have to be older generations of Catholics that hopefully have seen the culture decline.
And they want to see a change.
And they can be literally the exact people to put their finger back on the pulse.
Yeah, of course, we know they exist because they do actually become vocal from time to time.
Sure.
We hear both social media.
Yeah, you were telling me with
content.
and in your stuff talking about the organizational structure here, all kinds of different things.
Well, just there's an awareness.
Sure.
Culture is undefined,
to
say the least. One of our other guests, Owen Brown, with the Bread and Wine Theater Company, identified an underrepresentation of Christians in the arts. The following is an excerpt from the interview with Owen Brown, recorded January 27th, 2026.
Art should be a field that Christians are more actively engaged in than they are in a lot of fields. Christian patrimony of the arts means that as Christians, as Catholics, we engage and involve ourselves into making and recreating beautiful cities because we want to see the beauty of our God brought into those cities.
Now, you use the word fields. Arts is a field that Christians need to be active in. Do you think there's a deficit of Christian participation in the arts?
I would say yes. You get a number of things that have caused this. There's a lot of Christians that say, there's a lot of bad messages in the arts, so we'll just disconnect ourselves. Or another thing that Christians sometimes do is we'll just make art that's only for Christians. So if we're going to do paintings that specifically have Jesus, or we're going to do a song that is a worship song, we'll do that. Or if it's a movie that's about specifically Jesus, we'll do that. But if we're doing like a movie about puppies or a movie about, divorce and recovery from that, or whatever it is, we can't do that because, we'll just leave that to this secular culture.
Now, that's not true of all industries. There are some areas of activity in society today. We have a huge representation of Catholics. Look at the pro-life movement.
Of course.
Okay, Coalition Life, Missouri Right to Life. Any number of these, all states have their equivalents of these things.
Well, and of course, just charitable action worldwide.
Charitable action. So it's not like Christians and Catholics in particular don't have a seat at the table of certain things.
Yeah.
But the arts, which you just described, were like their earmark for centuries, has
So
become
long.
the afterthought.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, Christianity appears to have said, art's cool, but time to move on to other things.
Yeah.
But the art didn't disappear. It continued under the proprietorship of others. And so, which tells us back to what we said about the mediums are all there. The artists are all there. Even when you were describing Star Wars, the people making the costumes, they're all still
Brilliant.
talented people that are still working, they're still applying.
But that even makes it all the more wasted. Now it's on something bad, not even it's like,
Right.
you're still doing good work, but if it's ultimately, everyone forgets it. It's ultimately like meaningless.
So if we're looking to improve that, it sounds like it doesn't necessarily start with getting a better storyboard writer. It doesn't necessarily start with getting a better cameraman. You're saying it starts with getting the producer.
Yes, it starts with, again, people like myself who are generating the ideas that have to be made or nothing happens anyway. And then you need, exactly, the producer, the, what was the word? The patron. I would want to call them patrons.
Sure.
But on a practical sense, they would literally be the executive producers of a film.
Yeah, to me, I can already see the idea that charitable organizations and artistic organizations that have donors will often come up with creative and flattering names for the ranks of the donation, the gift size they give, like top tier, middle tier, low tier, the top circle, the friend of the whatever. And in this case, it's not just a lofty title, it's a real function. To be executive producer is to be the top patron.
Yes.
And
100%.
that harkens to a very traditional concept personified in the legacy of the Medici, the merchants of Florence, who funded so much of the art that was produced in the Italian Renaissance. They were not themselves artists; they were merchants, but they had the resources and the capital to get people like Michelangelo funded.
Yeah.
To use our modern language.
Yes.
But we wouldn't have a Sistine Chapel today if we didn't have that. So,
well, it's when those people, just because you're a merchant, what does that mean? You can't like beauty?
So, all right. So that sounds like our call to action here. Somebody listening to this podcast now will be the next Catholic executive producer of a Kinomega Studios full-length feature.
That would be awesome because
How can they get in touch with you?
Well, definitely our website, kinomegastudios.com, and definitely the Instagram, because we're posting our work there. I put my screenplays onto the website, and because some of them in the actual goal before and while I was even writing, they're meant to be in St. Louis. They're meant to be speaking to a very underrepresented massive group of the population.
And even if they're not, let's say that's wonderful. We need those producers. But besides that, too, there's other roles that people can fill coming into film.
It's an army, like we said.
And you're in need of soldiers for that army. So what are some other roles what other opportunities for people?
Okay, well, obviously cast. Yeah, obviously casting. And I think people are silly to write off being an extra. I think being the people that populate the believable world wherever we're in is just as important. I think that's
it could
key.
be their first time ever being on
exactly.
a set.
Yeah, exactly. But just you have to walk 10 feet to the right.
Yeah.
Everyone can do it. It's not a big deal.
If somebody wants to be in one of your films, either as crew or cast or extra, is it the same thing? Go to kinomegastudios.com.
Yeah. I would say, because I know a lot of people have, put all their personal work on social media. So, if you're on there, definitely send us a DM on Instagram. That's open. And we, a lot of people put their real material and stuff on their accounts, which would be perfect for us to see. Or send an email through the website.
And is it fair to say that the kind of people you're looking for, whether it's to fill a crew role or a cast role or a producer role, care about seeing a change in the pattern of film today?
Yeah, it's more about that, because the skills can be taught. The step by step, yes, the step by step of the filmmaking process can be taught. But I've always been seeking, and I think I've built a pretty good team of such people that I really trust and really get me and what Daniel want to do as our goal, which is, of course, make these feature films that reach a spiritual, transcendent level.
Tell us about your upcoming, your next most imminent production.
Okay, so right now I'm in the middle of writing my 7th film called Buddy Boy, and that's based upon a true story about a friend of mine, one of my best friends, a Catholic family actually.
Yep.
So I think that that's going to be a really good one. It is a tragedy, but he wants to. My friend wanted to, give an authentic look at his own life that really I think needs to be spoken to. And the other one is a comedy that I've already written, that was done last summer, but that one's also set in town, and I think would also just be something that's kind of missing is like a good, actually funny comedy for younger people.
Yeah.
Young adults. I don't think that really
Yes, comedy's been hijacked, I think, more than anything.
Yeah. Because there's an inherent truth to comedy. What are we making fun of? Everyone knows something has to be.
Yeah.
What are we pointing at?
Right.
So it has to be something real, right? And
right. So it sounds like the difference between the franchise film and the true art film is one is process driven and one is end or telos driven. Is that right?
I would say certainly. Yeah, the people of the franchise film, that is literally all about, there is no meaning. It's all just process. Okay, we get the money and then we make the next one and on
Rinse
and on.
repeat.
Yes. However, the true side of it, the cinema, that is where I think, like with any piece of art, a simple individual is motivated by some ineffable feeling to create an image.
So visit KinoMegaStudios.com, and because that's a combination of two foreign language words, we'll say it again here. Kino,
Kino, Kino, Mega, MEGA.
Studios.com. Go there to become the first Catholic executive producer, to become the next extra in a Brad Ramsey and
Ryan
Hook's film.
Yes.
And Brad, thank you for joining us on the Singing, Dancing Catholic.
I'm beyond honored. This was so much fun, dude. Thank you.
The mission of Oratorio is to enrich with music the shared effort to keep Fox Park a beautiful place to live. For information on cultural events, concerts, dances, music lessons, and how you can participate, visit oratoriostl.com. Thank you for listening.